Hello everyone, this is Ren at CSN Chicago News. Mayor Rahm Emanuel had sharp criticism for Governor Bruce Rauner Tuesday over the call for more funding for Chicago public schools. The mayor compared the governor to an old tale about an emperor. Chance the Rapper January's donation to CPS Monday doesn't come close to making up for the hundreds of millions of dollars Chicago schools need to finish the year. Tuesday, finger-pointing between the mayor and the governor over who to blame escalated to a full-blown verbal fight. The breaking point was the teacher pension crisis that could shatter the city's public school 3 weeks early. The governor voted a bill in December that would have given CPS the $250 million in need for pension help, money that's already in the budget. Tuesday, his suggested for CPS pointed to Chicago's Tax Increment Financial Fund. In addition to proposing to CPS use the city's TIF funds, Rauner also offered the option to passing an independent pension reform bill separated from the grant bargain that's being debated in Springfield. Mayor Emanuel simply said, "It is clear the governor has no plan." A demonstration in Chicago on Tuesday served as a warm-up for a nationwide movement on Wednesday. International Women's Day called on women to skip work and avoid spending money out to show their power and impact on society. It's the first national action by organizers of January's Women's March since the nationwide march held a day after President Trump's inauguration. The International Women's Strike, also known as A Day Without Women, urged women around the world to stay home from work Wednesday, March 8th, to demonstrate their importance to the job force and demand employers pay them at the same rate as their male counterparts. The event, which echoes last month's Day Without Immigrants strike, is part of large global work strike by women in honor of International Women's Day. Organizers are asking women to wear red to signify love and sacrifice. A freight train derailed in south suburb of Blue Island Tuesday afternoon. The 3 train car that went off the track near 136th Street and Chapman were empty, according to CSX spokesman. No one was injured. The cause of the derailment is under investigation. The world's largest touring tent will go up Thursday outside Soldier Field. Cavalier posted on YouTube time-lapse video of what looked like as the tent that's 10-story high went up in California. The tent takes 80 people to set up. It's the same size as Chicago Bears football field. This is where the Odyssey performance will take place next month. The show features 65 horses and dozens of acrobats, dancers, and musicians. It's the largest touring production in the world. Show begins April 1st. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Coming up on China Report, Foreign Minister Wang Yi has talked about China's policy on international and regional issues when meeting the press on the sidelines of the National Legislature annual session. And China has reiterated its opposition to the deployment of the U.S. missile shield in South Korea. Hello and welcome to this edition of China Report. I'm Xie He in Beijing. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Wednesday met the press on the sidelines of the National Legislature annual session. Wang talked about China's policy on a host of international and regional issues. CNC correspondent Jiang Ziyi was there and has this report.
As a regular segment of China's annual parliamentary session, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi held a press conference, sitting down with the media for a wide-ranging discussion of China's policies on international and regional affairs. Other highlights of the press conference include the Belt and Road Forum scheduled in Beijing in 2 months, the BRICS Summit, and the Sino-African Development and Cooperation, among others.
Asked about the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation in May, Wang said the Belt and Road Initiative has become the most popular public goods and the platform for international cooperation with the brightest prospects in the world. He said, while the trends of protectionism and unilateralism are rising, the Belt and Road Initiative has become the common cause of the world, which will help rebalance the economic globalization by making it more universally beneficial and inclusive. China is hosting BRICS Annual Summit this year. The minister said the BRICS mechanism will not lose its luster, but will shine more brightly.
We will explore the modality of BRICS Plus by holding outreach dialogues with other major developing countries or groups of developing countries. We hope to establish a more extensive partnership, widen the BRICS circle of friends, and turn the BRICS into the most impactful platform for South-South cooperation.
The foreign minister said the China-US relationship is transitioning steadily and developing in a positive direction. He called on China and the United States to rise above differences in their social systems and a zero-sum mentality to build a more robust and mature relationship.
As long as we act on the consensus reached between our presidents, follow the principle of no conflict or confrontation, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation, then there is no reason why China and the United States cannot become excellent partners.
Meanwhile, Wang said China, the United States, and Russia should work with one another and pursue win-win outcomes.
As for the China-US-Russia relationship in the new era, it should not be a seesaw game. The three countries should work with each other rather than against each other. We should pursue win-win rather than zero-sum outcomes. We believe the three countries can develop a healthy and a positive relationship so that jointly we can fulfill our responsibilities for world peace and development.
Tensions are mounting recently in the Korean Peninsula over the deployment of THAAD system by South Korea and the US. In response, Pyongyang has fired several missiles. Wang said China proposed double suspension to defuse the looming crisis in the region.
To defuse the looming crisis on the peninsula, China proposes that as a first step, the DPRK may suspend its nuclear and missile activities in exchange for a halt of the large-scale US ROK exercises. This suspension for suspension can help us break out of the security dilemma and bring the parties back to the negotiating table. Then we can follow the dual-track approach of denuclearizing the peninsula on the one hand and establishing a peace mechanism on the other. Only by addressing the parties' concerns in a synchronized and reciprocal manner can a fundamental solution be found to lasting peace and stability on the peninsula.
Wang said deployment of the THAAD in South Korea is obviously a wrong choice. He urged Seoul to halt move, which is the biggest issue affecting relations between the two countries at the moment.
It's common knowledge that the monitoring and early warning radius of THAAD reaches far beyond the Korean peninsula and undermines China's strategic security. So clearly, deploying THAAD is a wrong choice. It's not the way neighbors should behave to each other, and it may very well make the ROK less secure.
Wang said China will never allow hard-won stability in the South China Sea to be disturbed or undermined again.
Over the past year, tides have risen and fallen, and the South China Sea has returned to calm. I would go further than saying it has calmed down somewhat and say the situation has calmed down visibly. This is the result of joint efforts of China and ASEAN countries, and it's welcome news for the region and the world.
Talking about China's relationship with Africa, Wang said there will be no weakening in China's support for Africa, no matter how the international situation or world economy may evolve.
What distinguishes China-Africa cooperation is that China always keeps its word.
The minister also commented on the European integration, saying China will continue to support the process.
Contrary to conventional wisdom, we believe the challenges currently confronting Europe may turn out to be an opportunity for the EU to become more mature. China will continue to support European integration, and we hope to see a more united, stable, and prosperous EU.
Asked whether China is trying to displace the United States to seek global leadership, Wang said China doesn't believe some countries should lead others.
Rather than talking about leadership, we should really be talking about responsibility. Comparatively speaking, large countries have more resources and capability, so they should shoulder more responsibilities and make a greater contribution.
This year, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's press conference again shows China's confidence and resolution in building up a community of common destiny by offering new ideas, thinkings, and shouldering more responsibilities as the world's second-largest economy and the biggest developing nation. Jiang Zaiyi, CNC World, Beijing.
China on Tuesday reiterated its opposition to the deployment of a U.S. missile shield in South Korea.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang made remarks in response to a question regarding the arrival of a part of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense or THAAD battery in the ROK. Geng said China would take steps to maintain its security interests. He also urged parties concerned to stop deployment and refrain from going too far along the wrong track. Our ROK's defense ministry said 2 mobile launchers and a part of our equipment arrived at Osan Air Base, about 70 kilometers south of the capital Seoul on Monday night. Local media speculations said the THAAD deployment would be completed in April or May.
The U.S. State Department says relationship with China is vital for the United States, and the U.S. government is intent in pursuing a more constructive relationship with China.
During the first State Department press briefing since President Donald Trump took office, acting spokesman Mark Toner said China is an absolutely vital relationship for the United States. He said the U.S. wants to build a more constructive relationship with China and to expand the two countries' cooperation. Meanwhile, Toner again reaffirmed U.S. backing for the long-standing One China policy. The spokesman added Secretary of State Rex Tillerson reaffirmed the policy in his confirmation hearing, and President Trump agreed to honor the One China policy in his phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
3 new Chinese medical teams have arrived in Morocco as previous medical delegation had left after fulfilling their 2-year mission in the kingdom.
A welcome reception was held for the 3 new Chinese medical teams in Rabat on Monday. In an address, Chinese ambassador to Morocco hailed efforts done by the previous Chinese medical delegation.
For the past 2 years, 30 doctors from the Chinese medical delegation in Morocco have worked day and night in local public hospitals.
The Moroccan side, the attending official said a Sino-Moroccan collaboration in medical field has benefited the population in several Moroccan cities.
We want to continue the mission, and we expressed our aspiration that China's medical teams would cover more cities in Morocco, which still suffer from a significant gap in human resources.
The first memorandum of understanding regarding sending Chinese medical mission to Morocco was signed in 1975. As of now, around 80 Chinese volunteers work in 8 hospitals in various Moroccan regions.
As China's parliamentary sessions get well underway, we'll continue to bring a closer look with our special report from Talk China. Today, my colleagues Du Yang and Liliana Worth will give us some technological highlights from the 2 sessions.
Hello and welcome to Talk China. I'm Du Yang in Beijing.
And I'm Liliana Worth.
It's been an extremely busy week in Chinese politics. China's parliamentary sessions kicked off with their two opening meetings here in Beijing, and the government's annual work report was delivered by Premier Li Keqiang.
That's right. Our journalists interviewed some of China's political advisors after the opening of the two sessions. And in addition, there were some technological highlights to do with reporting at this year's meetings.
Yes, as many journalists know, having a good rest before a big event is a must to give your best performance. But there was one journalist covering the sessions this year who didn't need any rest at all. Do you want to meet him?
I certainly do. Let's have a look at the video.
我是新华社见习记者艾斯。
艾斯，这位是我们全国人大代表潘成英女士。
人民代表来自四川大凉山，那里的孩子现在怎么样了？
It's a brand new machine. It's for data collecting and data analysis. So, Lily, what do you think of the use of a robot journalist in the news production, especially like covering the important meetings?
Well, I think as we saw there, it has a rather cute side, and it actually reminds me of something I read about a robot who could write a 300-word story in under a minute, which might be of interest to some of our students. But I think in general, even though some people might think this will mean fewer jobs for journalists, they're still lacking key traits such as empathy, which, as you know, is crucial for conducting interviews.
Definitely. It's the emotional side that matters, right?
Absolutely, the emotional intelligence.
And I think that the robot journalist will be more of a help than a hindrance in the end.
I think that's right, and actually that brings us to our second technological highlight from this year's two sessions. And a photo of the so-called Iron Man equipment has been doing the rounds on social media. And Du Yang, have you seen it?
Nope.
Okay, let's have a look. Now this looks rather scary at first. You can see that the journalist has a lot of cameras and screens and wires attached around him, and this is what people are calling the Iron Man equipment, and it's a new media coverage tool from Guanming Online. What makes it stand out is that it uses a special multi-channel live pan-tilt zoom equipment, and this allows journalists to disseminate information very quickly online, and it can live stream coverage of an event and also capture panoramic and virtual reality images, all at the same time.
Pretty cool. So how can viewers access the live streaming? Do we have to be a tech savvy to watch it?
Not at all. That's what's great about it. So you can just actually access it on your phone or use social media platforms as well, such as WeChat.
There's a lot of operations in just one equipment, right?
Absolutely.
And I know for a reporter, it must be a very good way of capturing that unique moment when covering an important event such as the two sessions. Now let's hear what lawmakers and political advisors said at the opening meetings of the two sessions.
Great.
体育教师能够尽量可能多的下基层啊，对，因为一些偏远地区体育设施啊，包括社会的一些企业的赞助啊，他们场地设施都是还可以的，但是从一些师资配备来说，可能就会相对落后一点。
河北这块的力度是很大的啊，大家都意识到这个京津冀地区啊，这雾霾是很严重的。那么把这个治理大气的污染、土壤的污染、水污染，政府人家都有专门的安排啊，这个工作力度非常大。另外就是生态绿化、植树造林，这个力度也非常大。
So Du, maybe you'd like to explain to viewers what was going on there. Some of us might not be so familiar with WeChat.
Definitely. Those were WeChat moments, like a Facebook feed. So after viewing the posts from the lawmakers and advisors, what is your take on these issues they mentioned?
Well, I think it's very interesting to see some comments on rural education, which I think is part of the government's policy to balance the differences between the cities and China's rural areas. And also, I was very happy to see comments about pollution and some of the ways to tackle those things.
Yes. And let's hope we get some of those blue skies back here in Beijing, right?
Yes, that would be lovely.
Now, that's all we have time for today. See you next time. I'm Du Yang in Beijing.
And I'm Liliana Worth. This was Talk China. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Li Daokui, a CPPCC member, has said he is optimistic about China's economic growth during the country's transition from export-led growth to a model increasingly driven by consumption.
Li, who is also an economics professor at Tsinghua University, made remarks during an exclusive interview with CNC. He said China's economic growth is U-shaped, meaning once the slowdown bottoms out, growth is likely to rebound.
I'm very optimistic about China's transition in its economic structure and its search for new engine for growth. Fundamentally, China's economy is still a relatively poor economy, with per capita income being about 20% of the US. Meanwhile, fundamentals are still sound, right? High savings rates and high degree of economic openness in terms of investment and trade, and also human capital. Labor force. Labor force is still increasing in quality. All these things are there, and so I do think it is likely that 2017 would be or will be the bottom of economic growth, the growth rate. So my forecast of GDP growth of 2017 is 6.6%. 6.6%. And next year, 2018, the GDP growth rate is possible to be slightly higher. And then 2019, 2020, the GDP growth will be higher. In other words, we are reaching the bottom of a capital U of GDP growth.
China's economic reform and growth are high on the agenda of the ongoing two sessions that started on March 3rd and 5th respectively. While seeking stability, China is aiming for better quality in its economic growth and is sparing no effort to strike a balance between medium-high growth and economic restructuring. The economy is shifting toward a growth model driven more by new engines such as consumer spending, innovation, and services as policymakers wean the economy off reliance on export and investment. Li said consumption will play a major role in driving growth.
There are three important new engines of growth for the Chinese economy. Number one is consumption. Consumption has been outpacing the overall GDP growth. And for example, last year, consumption grew at the pace of 10%, whereas GDP at nominal rate grew around 7.9% with inflation, right? So the share of private or household consumption in GDP has been increasing. By my calculation, right now it's about 48%. So in the coming few years, this share, the share of private consumption in GDP, will be as high as 50%. So that's the first engine of growth. Second engine of growth is infrastructure investment, broadly defined. The third engine of growth is also important, that is upgrading or improving of China's industry.
Li expects new technology and new capital will be put into the traditional sectors, and then these sectors will become greener and more energy efficient. Meanwhile, Li said China's Belt and Road Initiative will bring benefits to countries along the routes, especially in infrastructure.
And meanwhile, China has surplus production capacity. So with the surplus production capacity, and with China being the largest physical output producer, it is relatively easy for China to help countries along the Belt and Road region to build up their infrastructure. So this is a tangible contribution from China to the rest of the world.
With an annual production of 1.6 million color TVs in Mexico, Chinese TV manufacturer Hisense targeted to explore the American market. China Report takes you to have a look at the Chinese enterprise developing abroad. After a 30-minute drive from the U.S.-Mexico border, the town of Rosarito is home to Chinese electronics plant Hisense. In 2015, the Hisense Group bought the facility in Mexico from Japanese electronics firm Sharp for nearly $24 million. With an annual production of 1.6 million color TVs in Mexico, Hisense's products are mainly sold to the U.S., Mexico, and other countries in Central and South America. Thanks to the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA, the company's products enjoy zero tariff preferential rates for goods entering the U.S. market.
The US is a large electronics market with annual sales of 30 million units. Hisense Group is seeking to expand in North America. Mexico is an advantageous location since it is close to the US. In addition, Mexico has one of the most thriving economies in Central America and all Latin America. With a population of nearly 600 million, the consumer market in Mexico is also very promising.
After 7 years of expansion and technological upgrades, Hisense's Mexico plant was officially put into operation in January 2016. Now it is one of the most competitive brands in the U.S. color TV market. From installing and placing small parts into LCD screens to packing, the production line at Hisense's factory in Mexico has realized full automatic processing.
Strategically speaking, Hisense has a development plan in the long run, rather than just a processing plant.
A fashion show on Cheongsam or Qipao, a stylish traditional Chinese dress for ladies, is held at Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. China Report takes you there for a look. The fashion show exhibited a beautiful facet of the rich Chinese culture to diplomats of different countries at the African Union. The show featured performances on different themes, including young girls' beauty, hosting friend, Chinese Romeo and Juliet dance, and violin solo, among others. According to the head of the Chinese mission to the African unit, the event was hosted by the spouses at the mission in connection with the upcoming International Women's Day, aiming to promote the rich Chinese cultural elements to the rest of the world. Participants hailed the event, saying it serves as a good platform to learn traditional Chinese clothing and related cultural elements.
I must say this fashion show has been magnificent, wonderful, and beautiful. I can describe it in all these beautiful words because it's really been magnificent.
The event concluded with a banquet which offers Chinese dishes. The Chinese mission to the African unit would continue to host such events in future with a view of promoting the rich culture of China to the rest of the world.
专业的团队，丰厚的经验。
Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Lake Cook Law Group.
投资理财、法律咨询，芝加哥专业律师团队为您的梦想提供最安全的保障。
同心地产，芝加哥最大的华人中介团队，无论是家居或是商业地产，给你带来全方位的最佳服务。